Hello, hello, hello out there in the digital world. It is the Melanated Air Hour, where we fill your airways with nothing but melanated conversation from these four beautiful melanated ladies on your screen right now. We do this every Tuesday and Thursday at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern. I don't do this by myself. I am Lenny Javette, but I also do this with Miss Keisha Ravenel at We Inspire Brand, with Miss Faye Bishop at Miss Faye Bishop, and with Teddy Ewing at The Real Teddy Talks. It feels good to be back. Ladies, how are you guys doing today?
Excellent.
Excellent.
Good.
Excellent. I'm traveling, y'all. I'm in Aswan, Egypt, which is southern Egypt, which is really upper Egypt. And it's on the Nile. It's beautiful. There's a great pharaonic site called Abu Simbel. I'll be going there in the morning. It's like a 3-hour drive, and it's right on the border of Sudan. So I'm super excited. Me and hubby are here celebrating my birthday, Valentine's Day, doing that thing. So
Happy
we're having a
birthday!
Everybody in the comments, say happy birthday to
Happy
Teddy.
birthday.
Thank y'all.
Hey, Jacqueline, George, good evening, ladies. Good morning, good afternoon. Where you at, girl? You said good evening. She said good evening. It's only noon where I'm at.
She with Teddy.
Yeah, right? She's where with Teddy.
It's late now.
So today we're talking about Black Wall Street, and this has been a conversation that we've been putting off for a minute. And even with putting it off, I wanted to wait until I had a chance to go to Atlanta and actually go and visit Black Wall Street, so I can give some perspective based on the new Black Wall Street that was just created. So I did that last week. I was in Atlanta. I went to, oh man, I should have my cup here so I could show y'all my new Black Wall Street cup. But anyways, so I want to have the conversation. When I was making the phone calls to talk to the different ladies about participating in Melanated Air, I called Faye, and me and Faye started talking about Black Wall Street. She had these really great perspectives and ideas and questions. Do you think this? Do you think that? Do you think we could do Black Wall Street again? And I was like, we need to have this conversation. Because we're talking a lot about bringing Black Wall Street back and rebuilding Black Wall Street. And Faye was like, is that real? Can we really build Black Wall Street back? And I was like, ooh, that's good. Let's have this conversation. So with that, I'm going to toss it to Faye to take us in. Yeah, put throw you right smack in the middle to take us into the conversation on Black Wall Street. So the topic is Black Wall Street has been done. Can we do it again? What are your thoughts on that, Miss Faye Bishop?
Well, I want to toss it to the audience and say, do you guys think we can rebuild Black Wall Street? And the reason that I thought this was a very good conversation to have is because, as you know, Black Wall Street was the most prosperous Black-owned district in 1921 in the United States, actually. It actually prospered for about 45 years, even after it was burned down, which is a little known fact that a lot of us don't know. Unfortunately, what took it out for good was policy. And I'll dive into that a little bit later. So policy is what has restricted us from being able to rebuild the Black Wall Street. Although it has been rebuilt, and it's been rebuilt repeatedly. We have thriving retail and shopping districts, Black owned, spread out throughout the country. I know that Atlanta is a mecca for it. But at the same time, it hasn't gone back to being like that industrial sort of, nucleus that, say, a New York City has, where they have Wall Street. When you hear about Wall Street, you think of New York. But when we think of Black Wall Street, we think of Tulsa and its destruction, not, it being that prosperous Black-owned district that it was in 1921. The thing for me that kind of, I would say, throws me is, again, and this may be an unpopular opinion, is that policy is what took it down. The Klansmen took it down the first time. Policy took it down the second time, making sure that it was never rebuilt. And this is where our voting interest comes into play, because we don't think about that when it comes time to voting. We tend to move emotional, not realizing how policy plays a huge role, the biggest role, in hindering us from being able to have this kind of opportunity again.
Okay, so anybody else want to add some perspective to that opinion with regards to Black Wall Street?
I definitely think that so we say, can it be done again? It has been done again. It continues to be done again in varying platforms and varying places. But I think one thing we lack is focus and fortitude. So we have to focus, and building a Black Wall Street means we are collective, we are unified, we are focused on one goal through various streams, right? And then the fortitude means we sit through it, and no matter what distraction, no matter what shiny thing pops up, we keep moving forward on our goal. So of course it can be done, but are we the ones that can do it? That's the question.
Okay, wait. So when you say, are we the ones that can do it, do you mean we as Black people, or we as this generation, this time?
I mean, we as this generation. I mean, we as Black people, as a Black community that exists or doesn't exist, are we the ones that can do it, right? So a Black Wall Street or Indian Wall Street or Asian Wall Street or whatever Wall Street can absolutely be done, but are we the ones that can do it?
Interesting. Okay, Keisha, you got something to add to that?
For me, I think it's important to not only talk about business when we talk about Black Wall Street. Like, of course, everything is a business, but also talk about community. So when you think about Black Wall Street back in the day, you know, like, it wasn't only, oh yeah, go buy a t-shirt or go get your hair done. It was also schools, it was hospitals, it was post offices. And I think that when we think about Black Wall Street, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm going to support a business, but I don't feel that that is longevity. I don't think there's longevity in that. There's longevity in education, where we're doing the damn thing, right? Where we are supporting businesses, Black businesses, but we're also teaching the next generation the importance of supporting Black businesses. So I think we also need to talk about community. I'm not too familiar with the new Black Wall Street. So Lene, if you want to give some perspective on that, I would love to hear that. But I think we have to realize that it's also those other things. It's also those schools. It's also those hospitals that we need.
Okay. Madam President, welcome.
Thank you. Sorry I'm late, ladies.
Hey, that corporate job got you. Somebody got to pay them bills over there.
Hey, the 9 to 5, baby.
Hey. Speaking of Black Wall Street, somebody out. No, I totally I love this conversation, because this is something Dr. Boyce did a documentary on Black Wall Street, or building Black Wall Street or something some time ago. And I had to do a poem, and I had to dive into like the building of it. And one of the things, like Keisha said, the community was so big on the success of the businesses. Supposedly this community was such a group of people that was together and loved each other and was in excellence, that if there was a person that came into the community and didn't have a home, the community will build that person a home. This is the kind of community that was present during that time. Do I think that this can be redone? I think it can be redone, but I think the only way it can truly be redone if we're open to relearning. I think the one thing that has consistently gotten us, and I think we've had a conversation about this as we build businesses, is that we keep on trying to mimic white supremacy's infrastructure. And if we're going to keep using white supremacy's infrastructure as a blueprint for success, then we're not interested in dismantling some of the capitalism, some of the things that is negative toward what white supremacy has built as an infrastructure. Also too, greed. So everybody has to come to a place where their needs are similar. You know, Oh, you got 3 kids? You're a family? Okay, well, you have a 4-bedroom house. That's what we'll bill you. No, I'm not going to be the one with one person to have a 10-bedroom house. And, so we have to understand like what it looks like in order for that to be successful, in my opinion.
Ooh, I love this conversation. Okay. Yeah. So I wholeheartedly agree. I wrote down some different things that you guys were talking about. I liked what Keisha said about community, but not just community, but I wrote down a way of life, right? At that time, we were all we had. So the school belonged to us, the law belonged to the law, lawyers, office attorneys, whatever, the hotel, the grocer, all that stuff was us. And we were forced into that. One of the things that keep us from a true Black Wall Street is that we have too many opportunities. And we have to be intentional about community. We have to be intentional about supporting not just Black-owned businesses, but Black people, Black marriage, Black relationships, Black lawyers, Black school, Black education, Black technology. Like we have to be intentional about those things. And because we have too many opportunities these days, people have lost that desire to be intentional. And that is what, in my humble opinion, is what will keep us from a true Black Wall Street. Now, I say that to say this. I did get to go visit Black Wall Street, the new Black Wall Street, I believe is what they're calling it in Atlanta. And I'm going to be very honest with you guys. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. When I initially was going into it, based on pictures that I had saw online, I was like, this is about to be a swap meet. This is about to be like a little swap market with little booths and stuff. And that was what I thought. But it was not. Super nice, super organized. You walk in there, it was, going into Black History Month. They had these Jeeps, these really dope Jeeps out there with these really dope Black History flags and Black love flags. And that was so cool. It was full. There was a lot of people there. When you walked in, people greeted you. Hey, sister, how you doing? I mean, it was just so loving and warm. Then when you go in, every aisle is named after either a Black person in history or a Black street that has had some type of history on it. So every aisle is named. And then the stores are like, so if you were to think of like a swap mart where they are plastic, they get the little plastic things on row, it's not like that. They have real walls in between them. So it looked like a little boutique where each store had its own little area. I was like, oh, this is so cool. It was so nice. Everybody was gracious. Everybody was kind. And there was such a variety of stuff. There's art. I tasted so much liqueur when I was there. Let me tell you, I'm about to build me a Black-owned bar. I tasted a version of Bailey's. I tasted vodka. I tasted this plum vodka. Oh, I cannot wait to order it. It was just, I was amazed at how much commerce that was there. There was jewelry, there was clothes, there was food, there was desserts, there was art. I bought soap. They have a grocery store that they're building in there. They have a restaurant that they're putting in there. They have a jazz lounge that they're putting in there. They have a pharmacy that they're putting in there. They have a tea shop. Like you can go in there and literally sit and have tea. This is, I forget the lady's name, but she has like a little tea, like a tea house. So you can go in there, you make reservations, and you meet your friends and you do tea. It was so nice. It was so nice. It's smaller.
So, wait, I have a question. So this sounds wonderful. I haven't been to Atlanta probably in about 2 years, and I would love to see this. But is Black Wall Street a mindset, or is it a physical place? And if it is a physical place, which this one is, but it doesn't have to be the Black Wall Street, right? It can be a concept. Is that what's keeping us from growing one Black Wall Street? Is because we were in Colorado, in Denver, they had like a Black Wall Street version. Is that what's stopping the growth? Is its actual physical location versus this virtual meta, right, mindset that needs to be built around Black Wall Street?
I think that's actually a really good point that you made there.
Excellent.
Which goes back to what Keisha was talking about, if it being community and being intentional. Because if we do think that it's just a place that we can go to, that could be another thing that keeps us from it. Like if it's only a place, I think Black Wall Street, to your point, it has to be a mindset. It has to be intentional, because we can literally create a Black Wall Street wherever we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have a question. So Lene, do people live there, or do they plan on building like housing around that? Because I think that also makes a difference. So when we think about Black Wall Street, right, the original Black Wall Street, like we said, this was their community. This was their lifestyle. This is where they lived. This is where they ate. This is where they went to school, hospitals, like everything was there. And I just think that Black Wall Street, it can't be this one-off thing. Like, oh yeah, I'll go to Black Wall Street today, and then like I'll go to Target tomorrow, right? Like, are people living there? Because I think it makes a difference when you're living somewhere than when you're going somewhere.
So specifically for this place, if you would think about, and I'm using this as an example. I don't know if this is a Target, but think like a big Target or a big Walmart, like something that's that massive, right? Lined with little boutique storefronts or shops, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So it's set up in like a strip mall, but not really, because usually like a Target or a Walmart has its own property, right? So it's set up kind of like that, where it has its own property. And then it's in Atlanta. It's the mecca of Blackness, the mecca of Black people, which almost makes it kind of too easy, because in Atlanta, they're Black conscious, right? It's easy to support a Black Wall Street in Atlanta because it's Black people. That's what Teddy was saying. Like, is it just because it's there that it makes it that beautiful? We don't have one here in Phoenix. We've tried. We've tried to do strip malls. We've tried to do little things where Black people can go and support. But
too many interracial couples in Phoenix. I said too many interracial couples in Phoenix.
I mean, I don't know if that's it, because the white folks here love them some Black. Man, I go to the chicken and waffle place. There'll be more white folks in there than Black people. The white folks, but also it depends on which one I go to, because that in particular one, they don't salt their food as good as the one downtown. So I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. But the idea, I think I really like what Teddy said about that idea of Black Wall Street, because when people do come here to Phoenix, they're like, there's no Black people, there's no Black stores, there's no Black businesses. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I do nothing but business with Black business. I eat at the Black restaurants, I see Black people, but I'm super intentional, because Black Wall Street is in my heart, it's in my actions, it's in my business. So it's who I am. Everywhere I go, every city, every town, if I'm flying someplace, I find a way to do business with a Black owned business. I tried. When I was even in Atlanta, I made sure I bought something off of every row. So every single row I hit, I bought something on it. Like, I was intentional about being there and supporting that. And I think that that's what we don't have today, which could keep us from actually having a true Black Wall Street.
I'm actually glad that you spoke that. I'm hearing some keywords here, and they are tugging at my heartstrings. I'm hearing intent and the unity and that sense of community. And I think because that's not a focal point in the Black community right now, at least in my opinion, it isn't. Because modern ideology has us going with whatever the current cultural narrative is. So if the cultural narrative is Dave Chappelle should be canceled because he said XYZ in his stand-up, or Whoopi Goldberg should be canceled because she did this, or this one, Meek Mill, and that one, and this, whatever that is, that tends to be the flow we tend to go with. And if we can't even so much as center our thoughts and center, or even just get on code enough to have that sense of unity and community in order to say, you know what, that's not a battle we need to fight right now. This is where we need to go. Whoopi, Dave, they're still family. We got a goal to get to. There's no way Black Wall Street can be built. And I know that saying that makes a lot of people uncomfortable, but I did say that in the initial conversation to Lene, and I'm saying it here today, because here's a part of history that a lot of people may not be aware of. Greenwood was rebuilt in 1925. And that's a history many people aren't aware of. And the thing is, not only was it rebuilt, but what shocked even the mayor and the city commissioner at the time was the speed at which the residents began to rebuild their neighborhood. Now, mind you, they did everything in their power to stop them. I believe the Tulsa City Commission worked to rezone the Greenwood Avenue area, which is where it was, Greenwood Avenue. They tried to rezone it from residential to industrial. They redrew the fire code restrictions, stating that buildings have to be built using brick and not wood. I mean, it was a lot. And what I find most impressive about the residents during that time is how they were working with far less resources than what we have available to us today. You know, this took time. This all took place during a time when the residents of Greenwood weren't even allowed to vote, you know. So what they were doing is they decided collectively that they were not going to be kept down. They were determined to not give up. And it wasn't just the homes that were rebuilt. It was the businesses that came back too. And that's how Greenwood, was able to have upwards of 45 years of prosperity after the initial attack. Whereas, again, Black folks today, not only do we give up, we'll surrender and sell out everything down to our firstborn. And we won't even do it in exchange for things that are tangible.
Anything.
Not at all. We do it in exchange for things like stimulus checks and Popeye's chicken sandwiches and an invite to the Super Bowl or Versus and all.
They were on code. They were on code. Treat Nasheed says it all the time, and whether you agree with Treat Nasheed or not, we as Black people, as a Black community, have to be on code. No matter what distractions, as Faye said, no matter what shiny thing starts dangling, we have to stay on code. If we are boycotting the NFL, I'm going to use a popular one, then we need to be boycotting the NFL until our demands are met. And if that lasts 5 years, then that's how long it lasts. And we aren't supporting halftime shows, and we aren't supporting because our team is there, and we aren't buying jerseys, none of that, because we're on code. But we are not on code. We are hardly ever on code. And we might be on code for a movement or for a moment, but it's never long lasting.
Yep.
Well, I think that you all are just speaking to my soul right now, but I feel like what is deeper is this is a integration thing that has happened. So, you know, I think during the period of time that Faye is talking about for Greenwood is, you know, the resources that those folks had, they didn't have any other crossover as an option. They couldn't go into any other neighborhood. They had to rebuild this neighborhood. I believe what transpired, when I did the movie B1, and we talked about this, and the question was, you know, what do you think happened? Like something about integration. So I said the one thing that integration did for Black people is it took away Black genius. So the thing about what integration does, it take the best of the Black folks. It take your best scientist and give them everything that they want. It take your best athlete and give them everything that they want. So everything that you need, of course, you know, the Jackie Robinson story is wonderful, but you know, the Negro League suffered when Jackie Robinson left. So we have this repetition constantly happening in our neighborhood, in our household, in our community. It actually, in order for us to really, like you said, Keisha, to really do this, and Teddy, like you can't give up your firstborn. Like Faye said, you have to demand that your child, he's gonna go here. We have a route for him. We're gonna have him take it. But then I want to bring up this really fast because this is so deep and so perplexed. You know, they always say if you ever want to keep a person a slave, you know, you start removing the chains, they'll stay, you know, shackled on their own. And that's really what you deal with a lot of times when you're dealing with Black folks who will not rebel against a system or infrastructure, because I can say, well, guess what? It's working for me. I have my house. I'm eating well. Shit, a little bit too much, you know, then, you know, then somebody else say, well, I'm hungry. Yeah, I'm hungry. I'm gonna be on BET next week. Whatever they want to do, I'm down. I'm hungry. So I think collectively we got big issues where we are so far apart from each other, you know, where we just really can't do that thing that's really required to make this Black Wall Street thing work from an internal place and then show up externally.
Madam President, that reminds me, I went to go see Dr. Claude Anderson speak, like back in like maybe 2012, 2013. And he said, he was like, one of the worst things to happen to Black people, and I'm paraphrasing, one of the worst thing to happen to Black people was integration. And I agree, because what integration does is it dangles that shiny object in front of, you know, certain Black people. And now that person is the token Black person. Like Tariq Nasheed talks about that too, right? The token Black person. So if this Black person can do it, then so can you. So now we're fighting to get to this, you know, this status, and it's like we're not unified, like you ladies said, like we are not unified. So integration is detrimental to our community.
And
It
then
is. Go ahead, Teddy.
I was just saying that's a mouthful. And I can't help but remember I lived in Monterey, California for about 3 years before we moved to Egypt. And we would go to San Francisco all the time. And we walk around, I mean, the whole city, the whole downtown, the wharf. And one of the places we had to walk through from where we stayed to get to the wharf was Chinatown. And I cannot help but be so amazed by the hospitals, the banks, the grocery stores, the apartment buildings, all in Chinese now. Everything is written in Chinese. People coming out of the building are Chinese. The police were Chinese. This is in San Francisco now. But when you step foot into the borders of Chinatown, you may as well been in China somewhere, because they had the whole community. It was theirs. And I can only imagine the politics and the society and the structures that had to be behind the scenes to make that happen, to where their whole community was them. Money, I mean, like the money changing hands was probably not even US dollars. I mean, that's how entrenched they were in their culture. And that's where we have to get for success. But we have to have that one single mindset, single goals, and say, you're going to be a doctor. You're going to be a lawyer. You're going to be an accountant. You're going to be a teacher. And whether you want to do it or not, that is what you're going to do, because it's for the culture.
Teddy,
it's for the community.
You know what? Oh, Teddy, you man, and Madam President, you probably about to say it. You might not be about to say it, but I know we kind of think alike. So sometimes, you know, you way more advanced than me when it comes to this white supremacy conversation, but we don't have a culture. Our culture was stolen from us. So we're out here in America trying to figure this shit out on our own. We don't have a language. We don't have money. We don't have that. It's and African American, right? When these Chinese folks come here, they are still Chinese or Asian or whatever their persuasion is. They bring that knowledge base, that culture, that family, that whatever it is from their country here and ingrain it. We were brought here, distanced from our culture. We have no connection to our culture, which just feeds into why we have such a hard time relating to each other, talking to each other, getting along. We have no ingrained culture. We're trying to build community from scratch, with no true leadership, with no true direction, with no true anything.
Agenda, anything.
Agenda.
And then, not to mention, Lene, I'm with you 100% on that's one of our biggest issues, stripping us from our culture, is not knowing. Because if you come across a lot of, I mean, all of us, we all come from a different place. We all come from a different household. You know, we have a level of consciousness, though, that connects us as Black women. I think education and things like that brings us together. But I think that that's the issue with being Black, is that one of the things is you could just be like, I'm not like those Black people. And then that's it. Then you don't want to live by them. You don't want to connect with them. You don't want to sit by them. And then, not to mention, this is always going to be the one thing that I will remember from Angela Davis's book, Women, Race, and Class. She says the Black woman is the only woman who's been responsible for both the slave quarters as well as master house. She just always working those two jobs, right? But the one thing that I remember in this book, and this Breaking the Psychological Chains of Slavery by Naeem Akbar, is one of my favorite books and a very easy read. And he just talks about how when you are on them slave quarters and in that slave plantation, looking at everything that white people have built, And that is what you're aspiring to be and get at your own expense. You don't even understand that your enslavement is what got them there. So you shouldn't even be looking at that in a level in eyes of gaze and appealing to you. That shouldn't even be appealing to you. If I have to be enslaved and my grandmother got to go through the back door so I can get a big old house, there is no way that we should have been, this system should have been appealing to us. But I think most of us have education on this panel. You know, we went through these channels because there was no other choice for us. There was no space like Black Wall Street that was saying like, hey, we're going to show you. And this is what I also was trying to share this with Lene. Dr. Boyce on his current Instagram, there's a battle going on right now because there was something from Dr. George Fraser. He said there was this picture with like all the celebrities from some kind of toast. And it says over 1 billion in this picture and not one Black-owned independent town, school, hospital, bank, insurance company, manufacturing company, or militia. Like that just says something. And Dr. Boyce says, you know, well, he asks, you know, why don't we have our own institutions? Well, I think that we are committed to inclusion. We're committed to the delusion of inclusion. Because
delusion of inclusion. I love that.
Of inclusion, because every time you get invited to something, they're not interested in you changing. They're okay with you being a face of change, but the actual implementation that allows more of us to come in and break the barriers and systems that have divided us, they're not interested in that kind of change. Even the civil rights movement. I'm going to pass the mic because I'm about to go deep.
Is in the comments. I'm gonna pull this comment up. T-Ball said, but we do have a culture. We are the culture. We have powerful, strong ancestors. And I think those are like 3 different things, right? We are the culture because we're swag-alicious. We got funk, we got soul. That makes us the culture. And I forget who hates the word culture, but it's very PC, if you will, right? And then it says, so we do have culture, American culture. We are the culture. Americans follow us because they think that we are the shit. And then we have powerful, strong ancestors, completely something different.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we were in, I'm in Aswan now. We were in Luxor several months ago, Luxor, Egypt. And I saw this Black American, what do we call, foundational Black American couple. And they were at one of the pharaonic sites. And I think I heard them talking, so I knew that I could see it, but then I knew, and I was there with my husband, my family, a girlfriend of mine, and they almost didn't want to speak. I'm like, we are in the motherland. We are walking on history, ancestry. We are in Egypt. And I had to force them. I said, hey, Black people, like all out, I can put people on the spot, you know? And they're like, oh, hi. Like, we're talking, my kids are talking, you know, we speak English, so you know, we're probably American. And this is the problem. We are in the motherland and still don't speak to each other. So how the hell we gonna build Black Wall Street around the globe, right? Or at least in America, or at least not just in Atlanta, but all through Georgia, and then all through the South, and then all through the East, and then all, you know, going through the Midwest. We cannot, I don't think we like each other. I don't know, but that's another show for another day, but I don't think we like each other. I think we have, I think the roots of enslavement and that whole crab in a bucket, we're in constant competition with each other, has caused us to not even like each other. So we damn sure can't build a community if we don't even like each other.
See, can I just make a comment on the culture? I think we do have culture. I think we build foundational Black American culture, but I think that's where it stops. So I think that's the problem, that it stops with that. So we have, you know, we have that understanding with each other, like in regards to language, in regards to music, in regards to religion, spirituality, whatever it is. I think we have culture, but we don't have community. Like we're not on the same page, as Teddy was saying. Like we don't like each other. Like we're not communicating with each other. So I think that's what it is. So I think we have the culture, but it has to go beyond that.
We don't just like each other from in the instance where as Teddy spoke about the people she just wanted to speak to, a loving couple. We can't even sit down across from each other on a platform and agree on something as simple as getting married and raising children in the same household. Part of the reason that Tulsa and the men and women of the Reconstruction period, the Black people of the Reconstruction period, because that's when Tulsa was built. It was during the Reconstruction period, were able to thrive is because of traditionalism. Black people are inherently conservative, but unfortunately, we've allowed these cultural narratives that are dictated to us to think that anything associated with conservatism has to mean you're a Republican. That's not true. Okay. Conservatism has to do with moral values and sticking with moral values, a certain set of moral values, and sticking with a certain traditional set of values. That's the reason why traditional families continue to win. That's why you can walk in Monterey, California and have a Chinatown. That's why you can walk to an Italian market and see family-owned businesses, Jewish-owned businesses, because those groups understand what sticking to traditionalism truly means. Modern ideology is what is bleeding us out. It's bleeding out what's left of us in terms of our culture and the little bit of sense of community that we tend to have with each other. All of this cancel culture, this get the bag culture, it's being pushed by celebrities, influencers, mainstream media, which is the devil. I tell everybody, unsubscribe from that as often as possible. What it's doing is it's turning us all into a bunch of spenders. So basically,
consumers, hyper consumers.
Exactly. As soon as whatever little bit of wealth we tend to get, because we are getting it, comes in, we're spending it and we're putting it back out. And what has happened is we're being mentally and psychologically conditioned to have the functionality of disposable digital computer chips who are good for nothing but serving the state and corporations. That's what we've become. So it's a lot to unpack there with that.
You had a post, it was today or yesterday, it really made me like have to dig deep because I talk about Black wealth all the time. And in your post, you talked about Black wealth isn't surface level. Black wealth has to be built for generations across breadth. It has to have breadth of not just me, my sister, my mom, my dad, my aunts, my uncles, my kids, their cousins, my cousins. That is Black wealth. And that is how white wealth is built. If anyone's never read The Millionaire Next Door, you have to read that and see how these rich, wealthy white folks spread out their money across generations. So when I take it back to Black Wall Street, this is not a simple task. This isn't I buy Black. This is if you're breaking chains, if you're the first generation of breaking chains, you're not even going to reap these rewards of building Black wealth. You will be the worker bee. You're going to be the one that lives for 17 days and dies because you will spend your life working, and building for your children and teaching them what they need and your nieces and your nephews and cousins so that they can carry on and build more wealth so that maybe a generation after them, they're actually wealthy across the generation. And then they're spreading it to the generations after. So just because I have the bag and I'm giving it to my kids and teaching them how to build business, I may not be building Black wealth, that Black generational wealth. And that kind of made me pause for a moment and it made me sad because this is a task that's not for the weak at heart. And someone said something about we don't have our own army or something. I mean, this is war. This is war against what has been done to us. And it's going to require us to be so focused, hyper-focused, and not hyper-spenders so that we can break those chains.
And I just want to say, because I just want to piggyback on what Faye and Teddy said regarding the hyper consumerism. So I want to put us on game because the media have the tendency to constantly manipulate Black folks. So you go through the grocery store, Beyonce, Rihanna, the wealthiest women in the world, right? Wealthy, most powerful women on the planet, right? This is powerful. This is on the front of the magazine. When Breonna Taylor got killed, Beyonce wrote an open letter to the Attorney General in Kentucky, and she said, please arrest the man who killed Breonna Taylor. She wanted to do something about this. She wanted to use her status. Now, anybody who went to college know, or anybody who went a part of any organization know what a letter of recommendation will do for you. The people who killed Breonna Taylor, nothing was done to them. Not even what America said was America's most powerful woman had enough power to have enough influence over a system of white supremacy. But let me tell you what's so deep about it. When America white folks want to use Beyonce to get black folks to do something, let's get Beyonce and Jay-Z, and we're gonna do a concert, and we're gonna tell them. So so basically, the people in the Prada and the Gucci, they can use Beyonce now for the benefit of luxury branding. But who are we going to use to end mass incarceration? Who are we going to use to get reparation? That's the question that we have to ask, because everybody can use our favorite celebrities for us to help us buy, to tell us what to do, can tell us where to go. But what about what we're going to get out of it? And I feel like I'm just agreeing with you, Faye and Teddy, that they basically use consumerism as a tool of manipulation to ensure that we don't have true power.
And in addition to that, just going back to what Teddy said, we live in a world and we're in a generation of instant gratification. So we don't have the stamina. So when you think about that generational wealth, as Teddy was talking about, we want to see the fruits of our labor. So if we're working hard, we want to see our millions, and we're not thinking about the next generation. So that is an issue.
That's what I posted about on my Facebook page.
Hold on one second. Hey, hold on one second. I want to, before we close out, I want to bring this Uniqua Simmons comment up. It says, I hear you saying how we are not. Please speak on how we can. We know and talk about not being unified. My sisters, now is the time to speak on the positive too. And so I do want to make sure that we veer the conversation towards something positive, so that we don't leave, downtrodden and negative.
Depressed.
Well, can I answer that? I'm not trying to be, because I knew I was going to make some people uncomfortable today. Be positive. Positivity is such a loaded word. I tend to try not to use it because there are many things that could be positive. The HIV test can be positive. A COVID test could be positive. Does that make that a good thing? No, it doesn't. When it comes to things like this, we don't have time to really sit here and nurse and coddle, play a game of coddling of feelings. Again, I have to take it back to what sparked the destruction of Wall Street was bombs and torches. But what messed it up the second time was policy. And, this is why it's extremely important to know the who and what you're voting for. Miss me with the celebrity BS, the symbolism. To take it back to what Madam President said, it is about what you are going to do for me. Because as long as you allow these cultural narratives to be dictated to you by people who are pretending to be your friend, things like this will continue to persist. And that is what is preventing us from not only having conversations, these tough conversations that we should have, but demanding change in public policy. The Federal Aid Highway Act of 1965 and 68 came, and then redlining came. All of this is policy. And these are the policies that led to Greenwood's land being undervalued, and then led to the area being targeted for demolition. And now Greenwood Avenue is sitting somewhere under a highway overpass in Tulsa.
So are you saying solution is policy? Is that what you're getting at? Solution is policy.
Solutions. We don't coddling of feelings and all that. And the positivity part is listening to people when they say we need tangibles, not listening to Joe Biden or whomever else going on a Breakfast Club and the girl wearing the Timberland boots, Harris wearing the Timberland boots, and we're cheering for that. We don't have time for that part. Yeah. We need tangibles, and we have to understand what it is we're voting for, because policy is what started all of this.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else have some solutions or positive energy that they want to put out there into the world to help people get through this?
Well, Faye got me going, so I'm gonna have to take. I'm gonna be. I'm just gonna say, just like Faye, stop playing games with these folks. Another thing that we have to do is we have to be more intentional in our circle. We sitting around, we like, hee hee ha ha. We need to be in each other's business. Well, girl, what's good? When you look, how long you gonna rent? What's going on? Are you gonna close on that? What's going on? You're gonna get the house? Well, guess what? All right, okay, cool. I got 5 friends. We make, $100,000 a year. We're gonna start this little money pool. We put $1,000 here every month. You do some with that 4,000 this month. I'll do some with the 4,000 next month. When are we gonna walk with intentionality about each other? Like we ain't in this thing together. We suffer
together. Tell you the ugly side of this. I was just talking to my husband today when we were talking about this topic. There are people, y'all know I talk about money. I talk about crypto. I talk about building. I talk about entrepreneurship. In my own family, they miss me with this generational wealth talk. Like, you'll find out what you're going to get when I'm dead. It's almost like, what? Like, if you can't have these conversations with those closest to you, what the hell? Like, so then your friends and people, y'all know I say, if we're not talking about something positive, money, growth, if I'm not talking about growth, I don't really want to be talking because I don't find anything funny. Like, I think we are at war. We don't have time to be kikiing and laughing. Like, I find joy in a few things, but this is about building and building and building. So you're right, Madam President. You have to know what your circle is. And if your circle isn't your family that's going to help you build, then find another circle. Because your family will keep you down, baby. They will keep you down. And you can love them from a distance. And you got to keep building without them.
What you said, Teddy, everybody can't come.
Everybody can't come. Everybody can't come. And most won't get to. Y'all going to be locked at the gate. Y'all can't come.
Can I close this real quick?
The sad piece is we say everybody can't come, but everybody don't even want to go.
Right.
No.
We are living in a different world right now. And in the post I made yesterday, for the record, I'm a SEC certified chartered financial analyst. So this time of year is very busy for me because it's tax season. People have questions, people want to know, and that's where my Facebook posting came from. And one of the things I noted in that post is we are living in a different world right now. And as Teddy said, we are at war. And right now, a new financial model is being ushered into this country as a whole. Along with that, it's ushering in a new price value system. The dollar isn't even worth what it was back in 1921. So it's important that we have these conversations and we're talking about business, not just on this platform or others, but even when we are in company of our families, as Teddy and Chanel pointed out, we have to make sure in the process of us having these conversations that we aren't tone deaf to what is happening currently in the world and what's happening in the market. Because if you don't get right and catch up, you will get left. And other groups are understanding that, which is why 365 days in, 3 groups got policy and Black people did not. Nothing.
But we still shucking and jiving. We still talking about the party and who look good on the gram and talking about so many things that just really doesn't transcend to the quality of life. And we have to stop playing even on our jobs. Like you say, the shift in money is here. The cryptocurrency commercial aired on national television during Super Bowl weekend. They're telling you that your money is shifting right in front of you. And if you have no knowledge like me, there was something that should have sparked in you and said, something is happening here. And the thing about Black people is, they keep on pacifying us with entertainment. Even this whole, Jay-Z and Mary J. Blige, it's still just the entertainment front of everything. You can go anywhere in America and you can find a Chinatown. But if you go anywhere in America, why can't you find a Black Wall Street? But 1 or 2 places now. And that's a problem.
I think the entertainment is our drug, right? Mm-hmm. So we use that to cope.
Yeah, it is escapism. We are addicted to escapism. That's why I said y'all got to learn to turn the news off. I put the phone down because
Mhm.
if your politics ain't right, it's impossible for your economics to get right. And we're
Yeah. And
so
find things that you can connect on. Like, I hate being in environments where people can only talk about entertainment or sports or something very vanilla. But as soon as you start talking about stocks or mutual funds or investing or real estate, everybody gets quiet. And I don't know what that is. It's like, if you don't know about it, let's talk about it. Let's learn. Let's start an investing club. We're not where we're sharing money per se, but we're learning about it. Like this whole thing about growth. If it doesn't make you feel good, you don't want to do it. Well, reading and learning about finances is hard. Reading the book, Your Money or Your Life, it's going to make you reevaluate yourself and be like, I done messed up for like 10, 15, 20 years, some people 30 years, but you can't look back on that, all this student loan debt. I'm like, that's focusing on that ain't going to get you where you're trying to go. We need to be looking forward and stop looking back. So the nostalgia of the entertainment, I love some oldies and some 90s music like the best of them. But I have to be looking forward to build. And I can't be looking back and you think about the 90s, you think about the mistakes you made and that car you bought that you didn't need and couldn't afford, or that thing that got repoed, or how long you've been renting, or whatever it is. And we got to be looking forward and saying, this is what I'm going to do different. This is how I'm going to grow this month, this quarter, this year, and then start growing and being around people who are going to help you do that and cut them off if they don't. That way they will segregate themselves so that the people who are trying to grow will be in a big group and everybody who doesn't want to grow will be over there somewhere and we don't care what they're doing.
I think that's where we kind of are right now. I think we are living in a time where we have integration, but we're still separated as a community. We are separated. You can call it classism if you want to, but we're separated. So you have the haves, you have the have-nots, you have the B1s, you have the ones that don't care. You have the folks that think about politics, you have the people who just don't care. So we are separated. And we all have different agendas. You have people who say we have culture, we have people who say we don't have culture. We can't be in agreement, and that's why our policy is messed up. Because I think somebody said it up here, we just vote for the lesser of two evils. Some of that comes from not understanding policy. Some of that comes from not understanding how policy affects who we are and what we do. The question that I would ask either Faye or anybody on this panel for that matter is, when we start talking about positives or solutions and or moving forward and or making change, is policy the only thing? That's like the only solution? That's the only thing that's going to help our situation, help us get better, help us do better? I know my personal answer, but I kind of want to hear what you guys have to say.
Is policy only?
Policy is basically one of the only things that leads to politics, but I think it's so much bigger than that.
Well, for me, you guys know that I pride myself on being a conservative and I spoke about my reasons why, because its nucleus centers on traditionalism. We have to not only get right in our politics, we have to get right in our homes. As I said, because we've reached a point, Black people, where we can't even sit across from each other and have a conversation and agree on something as simple as marriage. And it turns into a big fight about what you bring into the table, what you bring into the table, modern women this, modern men that. That's a problem. And what unfortunately happens is that trickles down to our children. And then it trickles down within families. And before you know it, we have a bunch of instability and dysfunction everywhere. So not only in getting our politics right, which is very important, we have to get right with each other, starting with the home. That's my answer.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. As far as the household is the first, I mean, we all are the presidents and the CEOs of our household. So every time, we're going into some kind of battle, you can't win if you're already in a war inside. So you can't go outside and fight a war if you got a war on the inside. And that's just not from a physical standpoint, that's also inside. We got to be mentally healthy. We can't be, just kind of, because America will drive you crazy, so you have to be mentally well. You have to have a sound mind. That is important as you go through just basically trying to be well, trying to learn. And the one thing that I will say too, for myself to try to defeat white supremacy, like they say, just being healthy. But I'm going to say I started noticing very quickly people who were not going to help me advance in the areas in which I wanted to advance in my life. So when I would meet some people that were possibly at mentor level or mentor status, and I would ask them for some kind of assistance in helping learn. And you got to learn how to speak up. For my quiet people, I know that it may be hard for you to be vocal, but you have to figure out and how to learn how to vocalize your needs. People are not going to put water on you if you're in a fire and you're not screaming or anything like that. You have to ask for help if you need help. So I will just basically say that I identified that I wanted to do something. I was looking at a few people that were mentor age and mentor status, and they were kind of using me like, okay, we're going to let you do this, we're going to let you do that. And I realized they were using my ambition for their personal benefit, but I wasn't getting anything on the receiver end. And guess what I did? I was young, but I stopped that shit right in the tracks. I said, I'm not gonna make myself available. I know that they have something that I aspire, but guess what? They're not interested in showing me. I'm moving on. And the one thing that I learned from a book myself, like Teddy dropped 2 books today that I wrote down, but when you learn to recover quickly, you get to your destination a lot faster.
Mm-hmm. That is the truth. Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm gonna use Faye's response and Madam President's response as their final thoughts. Keisha and Teddy, do you guys have a final thought? Or actually, let me take that back. Does anybody have a final thought? Because that might not have been what you wanted to be your final thought. So, any final thoughts before we conclude for the day? I know it's Thursday. Some of us as moms have got to get out the door to go pick up these babies from school. So I want to close. But before I do that, I just want to make sure that you guys know that you can catch us every Tuesday and Thursday at 2:00 p.m. ish on Melanated Air YouTube channel, as well as Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all the platforms. You can also follow each one of the ladies individually at their handle. You can see them on the screens. And then quick around the room, final thought, 30 to 60 seconds if we can, so that we can conclude late but on time.
For me, I just want to say that we need to eat, sleep, and breathe Blackness in order to create this Black Wall Street. So that's Black love and marriage. That's Black military. That's Black education. We really need to be one. And in addition to that, I feel like we don't talk about the consequences for coons, right? Like, I hope I can say that on this platform, but we don't talk about the consequences because those are the people that are bringing us down as well. So they're upholding white supremacy. So what are going to be the consequences for these people that continue to hold us back? In other communities, they have consequences for the weakest link. These are the weakest links in our community. So BB1, eat, sleep, and breathe Blackness.
And my last, and I will say this, if I have just a final moment, just be a second. I want to tell the Black woman that the Black woman, you are the queen. So you play a major role into the infrastructure of this entire world. You do not minimize yourself. Do not act as if you just letting everybody make the decisions for you. The reality is the Black woman, where I think it was Malcolm that says you go into a community and the women are advanced, then the entire community are advanced. And I mean that from the infrastructure of grandmama and them had some bad habits that they passed down. If you have a level of consciousness and awareness, you got to stop it. You know, the brother that keep on having the kids and keep the brother who keep on having the kids and the brother that's selling the drugs and the brother that's shooting up the community and that's your brother and you come and let him come in the house and make him a plate, time out for that. The Black woman, time out for that. It's time for you to choose a life of complete wholeness and wellness over all the BS, the nonsense, like Keisha is saying. If you ain't on code, you gotta go. Everybody.
All right. Teddy, can you put your books in the chat? A couple of folks have asked, what books did Teddy recommend? Can you either say them or put them in the chat?
I will say that
but
before we get off, I'll put them in the chat.
Perfect. Faye, I know you have to go. Did you have a final thought?
I feel like Keisha and Madam said it all. I will just piggyback off of what they said and simply say that after more than 100 years of discriminatory policies, many of which we sat out here and voluntarily voted for and just voted for more, in the most recent election, this is what has kept us deprived of opportunity. And I want everyone to allow that to marinate, because it's very important to get serious about what it is we really want, the direction we would like to go in, so that our children can reap the rewards and some sort of benefit from that. This isn't about me and mine, I, and all of that, which we tend to selfishly do. This is about a collective group, starting with those little faces who look up to us in our homes.
I love that.
Yeah.
Miss Ewan, Miss Teddy, if you're nasty, go ahead.
Sorry, I dropped out for a second. I'm on my cell phone today. I'm trying to be modern. Anyway, book, Dr. Claude Anderson, Black Labor, White Wealth. The next one is The Millionaire Next Door. I can't remember the writer, but I will put it in the chat. The third one is Your Money or Your Life. It's a female writer. I can't remember her name either, but I'll put those all in the chat. I just want to close by saying, this is not going to be fun. Again, if you are a chain breaker in your family, this isn't going, you're going to spend your whole life rebuilding and growing, and you'll get joy out of it, but you're not going to reap the real benefit of your labor, but you're doing it for your next generations. So we are at war. We are in the middle of a struggle, and we are fighting, and we can't do it by ourselves. So it's not going to be fun. So if you're looking for warm fuzzies and all this happy-go-lucky feeling, you're not going to get it, okay? You're not going to get it, because this is a struggle that we're going through, and you won't be able to do it by yourself. So as Madam President says, you need to reach out to those that are smarter than you in certain areas and let them help you grow. And if you're around people that aren't growing you, then find new people to be around. Find groups like these 5 ladies here that we're talking, and we talk offline about business and growth and how we're going to improve ourselves. And I pull little tidbits of information from all of them so that I can grow too, and tell my husband about it, and then tell my kids about it. So we are at war, but it's to get us where we're trying to go. And if you're looking to feel good, this probably ain't the battle for you.
She said, probably not the battle for you. What I'll say is really just a compilation of what everybody has said. And that is that change starts right here. It starts right here. It starts right now. It starts with you. It is not going to be easy, but nothing good or progressive is. Like, somebody has to pick up the torch and march on, and that has to be us. I was going to say unfortunately, but it's not unfortunate. Somebody flipping has to do it. It has to be done not for the generation that you're in right now, but the next generation, the generation after that, because we are the leaders. We don't have to wait for somebody to come in here and save us and lead us. Black Wall Street, can it be redone? Yes, but it's not a place. It has to be redone at your house. It has to be redone in your home. It has to be redone in your heart. It has to be redone through your actions. If we only think the Black Wall Street is one place in Atlanta or one place in Oklahoma or one place wherever we live, then we've missed the point. I think we have to go back, or have like face it, traditional values. Traditional should mean we support ours first. Traditional should mean be one. We can live in the world. This is the world. We live in America. We can't, probably cannot. I won't say we can't. It would probably be difficult not to engage in the world. I love my Mac. My Mac computer that's sitting right here. Apple is not a Black company. I'm not willing to give this Mac up. But but when I do things for my Mac, I do try to find a Black electrician or a Black technologist person. So there are ways to be intentional about Black Wall Street. You don't always have to do business with a Black-owned business, but I always try to say that there should be a Black-owned hand tied to the transaction. You have to have insurance. We don't own, well, I think there's one in North Carolina, but let's just say you have State Farm. That's cool. Find a Black State Farm agent to write your policy. There are ways for us to create and have a Black Wall Street, but it comes down to being traditional. It comes down to being intentional. And that's how we do it. And then another piece what Faye says is the politics. I will be the first person to admit I'm not as strong as I probably could be and should be from a political standpoint. But the more I'm around Faye, the more I'm like, damn, I need to better understand these policies she be talking about, because of the vote for the lesser evil. That's all they give us, right? But when you better understand policy, you better understand politics. This is how we make those changes locally in our communities, in our day-to-day lives, not just every 4 years from a presidential standpoint. So you tuned in today. The beauty of Melanated Air is we all have different perspectives. We all have different lives. We all have different backgrounds. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't agree, but we learn and we listen and we apply and we grow. So get you some homegirls or some homeboys or some friends like these ladies right here on Melanated Air that will help you to grow, that will correct you, that will challenge you, that will have conversations with you, that will cause you to think different kinds of ways. Sometimes it's going to be positive and fuzzy, and sometimes it's not. They said, look, I ain't here to make it positive and fuzzy for you. I'm trying to tell you the goddamn truth. This is what truth is. And the truth ain't always nice and fuzzy. You need people in your life like that. So don't be, if you show up here, you're going to get it all. Sometimes we're going to laugh and kiki, and it's going to be fun. And sometimes it's going to be, this is what it is. Take it or leave it. You voted off the island. We love you guys. Oh, here comes Fred Davis. Where are the men? This is called Melanated Air. This is for queens. These are big conversations, though. They're just not on this platform and this conversation. But we love men's. The next question is, who's married? We're not going to go into that today. What we're going to say today is we love you. We appreciate you. We thank you for tuning in. This is the Melanated Air Hour. We do this every Tuesday and Thursday at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern. You can catch us on Melanated Air. We have a YouTube platform. Please go find us and subscribe. You can also go and support each one of the ladies individually. You see their handles there. You can find Miss Faye Bishop. She is a Twitter fanatic. That's where she lives. She's everywhere. At Miss Faye Bishop. You can find Keisha Robino at We Inspire Brand. Madam President at the #1 Madam President with a Z. And Teddy Ewing at The Real Teddy Talks. I am Lanie Javette. That's also my handle. We love you. We appreciate you. As always, stay black, be blessed, and be one. We'll see you guys.
Baby. Bye.
Bye.